welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to what's been a very long month. Sorry for the lovely light there. This is the first time in, well, almost 2 weeks since my surgery that I've been able to get out and about. I'm heading to a family lunch, birthday, and I thought perfect opportunity to sit down, have a little talk with you guys, jump in the Jeep and, you know, kind of reminisce about some stuff. But my thing is, I was thinking a lot about, I posted, I guess last night, about, a lot of people have been asking me about my origin story. And I've always shied away from it, like when I'm on panels and somebody asks me, what got you into doing this, you know, the paranormal? I always shied away from it because I'm just like, it's my whole life I've dealt with it. You know, there was years in my early preteen to mid-teens that I ignored, so to speak. You know, you kind of grow up it. When you're a kid, you know, everybody says, oh, you have imaginary friends. They're not imaginary, just adults can't see them. You know, kids and dogs and, well, kids and animals can see ghosts, spirits, the other realm. But all my life, you know, I have had the ability, I should say. I don't call them gifts. I'm not psychic. I don't think I'm super sensitive. I can see things that most people can't see. I can hear things that most people can't hear. And it's only because I open myself up to it. I'm in tune, and I am extremely washed out. I don't know why I was doing that. Anyways, but I figured I would talk about it. You know, it's been really hard to talk about it because it involves my sister, and as y'all know, she passed away in June of last year. And so it's been rough. But the I guess starting as a young kid, I've always been able to you know, see things, hear things, you know, and I just kind of ignored it for the most part because it never seemed out of the ordinary for me. Once you get a little older, you realize that's probably not what's supposed to be happening, so you ignore it more. Well, I guess I was about, I don't know, 10. I'm not sure the exact timeline. And unfortunately, I can't ask my sister now. But my sister had just gotten married and moved out of the house, and then she had her first son. And we decided we were going to travel back from Texas to Louisiana, because we lived in Texas. I'm a Texan. We lived in Texas pretty much my whole life. And then when my grandfather, my dad's dad, got sick, we moved back to Louisiana. All right, so we decided we're going to go back to Texas, and we stayed with my Aunt Peggy, and went and saw my grandmother's grave. Now, my grandmother was a very big part of my life when I was a kid, but she died when I was very young. Very Irish woman, 5 foot tall. You know, if you think of the stereotypical Irish grandma, that was my grandma. But she was deaf. So I have a lot of wonderful memories of her. That mostly just me being a little terror, being a little 5, 6, 7-year-old. But I have memories of her. But anyway, so we go to her gravesite. Sorry. I just about got sideswiped by Billy the Exterminator. If you don't know who that is, look it up. he's from my hometown, but he's crazy. But anyways, so we went to her gravesite. I had never been, obviously. I was about, I guess I said like 10, 11 years old. And by this point, I had started already ignoring my gifts, if that's what you want to call them, and started just living my own life. You know, my dad was a musician. We traveled around a lot, so I lived in very rural Texas most of my life, between Dallas, Fort Worth, Everman, Richland. I'm originally from Justin. You know, there's a lot of that area that I lived in, and we always lived in really older model houses. So obviously, if you know anything about older model houses, yeah, they're spooky. So it was nothing new for me, but I started drifting away from it. So when we went to the cemetery, as soon as we pulled up, everything went weird for me. I started getting like anxiety, dizzy, like weird feeling, like tunnel vision, and everything just seemed chaotic. I contributed to the fact that I do have motion sickness. You know, my brother-in-law at the time was just, you know, he drives a big old dually truck. So, you know, I figured I just got sick. That was all it was. No big deal. And I'm hoping that this video is not washed out when I edit it, because I am looking white. But anyways, so when we got there, everything was chaotic. Once we got to my grandmother's grave, it all got silent. It all got still. I don't know how long we were there. I'm assuming 30 minutes to an hour, if not longer. But I remember getting to her grave, standing there and just staring at it. I don't have any memory of anything that was said, anything that was done, aside from me standing there, just hyper focused on her grave. And it was just, everything went calm. So we go, eventually we go back to my aunt's house, and my aunt had this big beautiful home in San Angelo. I believe that's where she lived. And the day when we moved, we got there, the house was calm, beautiful, nice, big, beautiful home. When we got back from the gravesite, I was irritated. I was anxious. Everything was, something was wrong. I don't know what it was. It wasn't dread. I wasn't scared, but things fell off. Best way I can explain that. Things fell off. We finished dinner, and when I went to go to bed, I just didn't want to go sleep in that room by myself. Granted, I'm 10, 11 years old. I don't know exactly how I was. I was a preteen, but I was older. And I didn't want to go to that room by myself. I don't know why. I demanded, begged, basically, to stay in the room with my sister, her husband at the time, and their newborn, my nephew. And me and my sister had a very interesting relationship. Loved her, died for her, but we fought. There's times we hated each other, and it's not, okay, siblings, no, it's different. We had a very volatile, very wild relationship. At times we were like strangers, but then there was times when you couldn't break us apart. It was just, I think it's just why this has been so hard for me, for her being gone, because so much time lost. But she, surprisingly, was totally okay with it. Had no problem with her sister staying in the room with her, and I plopped myself right in between her and her husband. My nephew was in the carriage at the end of the bed by my sister, and I was right in the middle of them, and I was spooked. And I was why I was so spooked, and I don't know if I was spooked or I just genuinely wanted to be in that room, and I'll explain why. So we say our goodnights, we say our prayers, we turn off the lights, we're laying in bed, and my nephew started getting restless, started getting cranky. Wasn't crying, but was whimpering, just agitated, wasn't comfortable, whatever, uneasy. And I was just laying there, and I wasn't sleeping. Something was just, I was spooked. And finally, my brother-in-law at the time kind of sat up for a minute, and he was like, "What is that?" And which woke my sister up. I was already awake, and we could hear this sound, right? In the corner of the room that we were in was a rocking chair, and it sounded like the rocking chair was rocking. And I was just like, what? So my brother-in-law, he reached over and he flipped on the light that was on the nightstand next to him, and the chair rocked, then stopped. Hand to God. Scared the living crap out of us. Well, me and my sister. My brother-in-law, at the time, he just looked, and at the exact time that the rocking chair stopped, the HVAC, the AC unit kicked on, and this floral perfume smell overtook the room. So much so that it was burning my eyes. And so he was like, AC, okay, the wind, the AC blew the chair, he was logic, slamming this hard. And apparently the closet door was open, and in there was a lot of clothes and stuff, and he's like, okay, well, there's just perfume on the clothes, whatever. It is just really good, strong AC unit, right? And my sister was like, good enough for me. She, my nephew had calmed down, we went back to sleep, and so we were all like, okay. So I don't know how long, it took for me to go to sleep, but I eventually did fall asleep. But for what seemed like hours, I don't know how long, I was so hyper focused on that closet. I stared at it, and he had turned the light off. It was dark in there. There was a little bitty night light in the corner, so Tammy could see my nephew if she had to get up or what have you. And so all I could see was the outline of the door and what looked like shadows in there. Now, I was 10 years old, 10, 11 or so. So, you know, you imagine the imagination. You're like overactive, especially after what we just witnessed. I don't care how much he tried to explain it away. We know what we saw. And it was just crazy. I just stared at that closet all night. That floral smell, as soon as we identified it, went away. It just poofed. Well, the next morning, after we all finally fell asleep and we got up the next morning and went to the kitchen, my aunt was cooking breakfast and was sipping on some coffee. And my brother-in-law and I came out. My sister was feeding my nephew and getting him changed and everything. Watching the kitchen, and my brother-in-law was like, man, you got a great AC unit. And my aunt was like, what do you mean? He's like, and he explained what happened with the rocking chair rocking and the smell of floral. And my aunt just looked a little confused at first. She was just like, I don't know, there's nothing that should smell floral. And just out of my mouth for no reason at all. I don't know why. Again, I was 5 or 6 when my grandmother died, so this memory isn't there. But I said, oh, it was grandma. It was her perfume. And my aunt was like, well, I mean, her clothes are in that closet. We'll circle back to that. Her clothes are in that closet, but everything's vacuum sealed. You know, the garment bags that you vacuum seal up. And she's like, so I've never had that smell come through. But okay, yeah, that makes logical sense. And Joel just was like, that's my brother-in-law, by the way, at the time, was like, yeah, that's not a problem. Just, you know, if you don't mind, can we just shut that door or what have you? Or, because we were leaving the next day. And she was like, sure, not a problem. And so I was like, okay, logical. I'm going to logic the crap out of this. I'm not about science and stuff. Even today, as a paranormal investigator, I will debunk myself or debunk the situation before I say paranormal. Because if I can't disprove it, then there's something there. If I can disprove it, then there's a possibility that it was a creaky house or what have you. In this case, I didn't look into it too much. So we're sitting there eating our breakfast. Tammy's come out and everything's good, and they're getting ready to go into town to go do something, Tammy and Joel. And I'm going to stay there with my aunt. And so they're getting together and they head out, and my aunt looks at me. She's like, are you okay? I was like, yeah, it was just scary, you know. I was like, I really felt grandma's presence. And my aunt just out of nowhere, and I never questioned her, and I haven't asked her since, and I wonder if she even remembers this. I should actually ask her. She goes, yeah, I figured you would sense her. And that was all she said. And I was like, what? Huh? Excuse me? Rewind that. Didn't say another word. Walked out of the kitchen, and I'm just standing there, and I'm just like, okay. Fast forward, I'm now almost 50 years old. Yeah, I'm old. And you know, my mom and my dad both are spiritually gifted. My dad more so, and I get that. I think I get it from my dad's side more than my mom's. But my mom does have discernment. She has sensitivity. She can sense things. And I wonder if my aunt does now. I haven't talked to her about it. I don't even know if she knows I do this now. But I'm wondering if it also runs on my mom's side too, because that was crazy for her to say that. I figured you'd sense her. Why would she say that? Right? So that's what got me interested. That little moment was like, my grandmother came, rocked my nephew while he was fussy, put him back to sleep, and then once we acknowledged it, she slowed down. That's not the only time my grandmother has come to me, but that's a whole different story. So fast forward maybe a year. I was, let's see, 6th grade. That's what, 12, 13. We had moved back to Louisiana, and my mom and dad bought this small house. Love that house. I mean, it was literally like maybe 1,000, 1,200 square feet. Absolutely love that house. It's not that far from where I live now, up the road. And I absolutely love that house. You come through the house, through the kitchen, you take a right, and there's a hallway. Now, it's not a long hallway. Again, it's a small house. But at the end of the hallway, you got the bathroom on the left, and at the end of the hallway, you have 2 rooms. And I got to pick which room. You know, my sister's married, moved on, so it was just me now. I'm the only kid left. And I got the choice of rooms. And I, of course, was going to go get the biggest room possible, right? Well, I walked in the hall, and both the doors were shut. I turned to my right and grabbed the doorknob of the door on the right, and it felt locked. It wouldn't open. And I was like, I yelled out, "Hey, is this door locked?" And Dad's like, "No, nothing's locked." And as soon as I went to grab it, open it, it pulled open on its own. And I was just like, well, okay. Went to walk in. And then, you know, that if you've ever been in a paranormal situation, you know the feeling of, nope, you're not going in there. I stood in that doorway for what seemed probably 2-3 minutes. I don't know exactly how long. And I just stared there. And once again, I got hyper fixated, hyper focused on one area. It was, when you walk in, there's a wall closet. And I was focused on where the window met the wall near the closet. And just stood there. And I got this overwhelming sense of dread, sense of evil. There was something evil in that room. And it did not want me in there. I backed up, shut that door, turned around, opened the other door, walked in, and it was an instant feeling of peace, instant feeling of salvation, safety. That was my room, and that became my room. I lived in that house 5 years. Went in that other room. It became my dad's musician. It became his music room, his office. Maybe twice, maybe 3 times. It was horrible. Well, one night my dad needed something that was on his desk, and he sent me in. And I just, you know, didn't want to go in there, but, you know, my daddy asked me to. I'm going to do it. I walked into the room, opened it up, the door up, turned on the light, walked 1 foot in, and was like verbally out loud. Again, I'm 13 years old at this point. And I verbally out loud, I don't understand why I did this, but I remember like it was yesterday. I said, "May I please come in? Please don't hurt me. I just need to get this from my dad." Verbally out loud said that. I got a sense of calm for a moment. I walked in. The dresser, the desk was, I don't know, 10 feet into the bedroom maybe. Got to the desk, grabbed whatever it was, flashlight or what have you, I don't know, whatever my dad needed, off of the desk. Door behind me shuts. Older house, AC unit. If you've ever been where a door's kind of open, if you turn on the AC, sometimes the doors will shut, right? To this day, I can't explain why that door did that, right? And I just panicked, and I stood there, and the light in the freaking bedroom, hand to God, lightning struck me dead. The light went off in the bedroom, and I had this feel come over my back that I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. The demonic evil feel. And I use that word so specifically because I don't throw demon or possession. I don't use those words because it's overplayed. Everyone uses them. But that feeling that came over was evil. Pure evil. And I don't know how long I was in there. Long enough for my dad to come looking for me. And he came up to me and he was like, "You okay? You've been in here for like 30 minutes. I was standing in the dark in a room with the door shut, crying. And so I was just like, what in the world is going on at this house? So, but in my room, it was quiet for the most part. It was safe. And then something changed. I can't explain it. I don't know. It's like, you know, like if you're doing a Ouija board, which I don't mess with, or if you do like a reading, or if you're doing a spirit box session, you open it and then you close it. Well, at that time, obviously at that age, I didn't know any better. So I never closed. When I walked in and asked permission to come in and everything, well, when my dad finally came and got me, Hey, sorry. For some reason, my GoPro was acting up, and I tried to continue recording, and it just wouldn't. Kept shutting off. So I'm home now. So let me finish the story. Like I was saying, I didn't close it. I asked permission to come in. Dad came and got me. I hightailed it to my room, shut the door. I never closed it. And for about a year, things seemed okay. Can't really complain. I don't remember much about anything negative, but then Mom and Dad worked nights. Pretty much from like 9 at night to like 6 in the morning, I was by myself. Which is fine. I was at this time, by the time things started really ramping up, I was almost 15 years old, and I could handle myself. I could take care of myself. So there's this one night, there was something going on in the house. It was creaky, weird. It was a storm. I remember it being a bad storm. And I was in my room listening to music, something I did all the time anyways. I'm very musically surrounded. Yeah, I always have music in my life. And I just remember the radio was on, the lights were on. I was in my room on my bed, probably doing homework or something like that. And all of a sudden my radio shut off by itself. And I was just like, what in the world? You know, I had this amazing ability to have forgotten. I had forgotten all of the crap that had happened to me previously. And my light started flickering. And I was like, okay, if you know anything about Louisiana, our weather sucks. I was like, okay, it's just the weather. Probably going to lose electricity. No big deal. Lights went off. All of a sudden, I hear my door, my bedroom door, which was off in the corner. My bed was in the corner, far end. Door slammed shut. Freaked me out, obviously. So I ran to the door to get it, and it was locked. Now, I don't know about y'all, but when the AC comes on and that suction, you know, that pressure sucks the door shut sometimes, it doesn't lock it. Right? So I immediately, that cold chill, that feeling of, oh my God, hit me, and everything came rushing back to me. And I stood there, and I was just in the dark, holding the door, and I took off and I ran to my bed. Granted, I'm 15 years old by this point, guys. I'm not a child. I ran to my bed, threw the covers over my head, and all I could hear was this growl, this evil, holy crap. Everything you see in the movies on TV happened. Temperature dropped. Everything went eerily silent in the house. And all I could hear was this heavy breathing, growling sound. And if I didn't know any better, I'd swear there was a bear up in my room. Freaked me out. I just sat there and I just closed my eyes real tight and I just started praying, And when I closed my eyes, I could see the vision of that old man standing there, face distorted, me just angry, freaking angry. And I don't know why. Wasn't mad at me. I didn't do anything to him. I was a child moved into the house. Found out much later that the dude was actually a demented old man who was a pedophile. He was just bad, and he had died in that room, in that house. And see, real estate, I don't know about your state, but in Louisiana, unless you ask, realtors don't have to tell you. And my mom and dad didn't ask, so the realtor didn't tell her that an old man, a pedophile, a convicted crazy lunatic had died in that house. Now, I'm not disrespecting anybody. I'm just disrespecting that man, right? But anyways, so eyes closed, praying, begging, just leave me alone. Just leave me alone. Please, just leave me alone. And it was like as quick as it happened, I started praying and begging, just leave me alone. I'm so sorry. Leave me alone. I won't go in the room again, because it clicked and dawned in my head. I had gone in that room, and when the door slammed shut, I had upset the entity that was in that room. That, like I said, I don't want to ever say demon, demonic, but whatever the heck was in that room was not nice. And I didn't ask permission to leave. I didn't close the session. So here I am sitting in my room, begging to God, just let it go. Please just, protect me. And then poof, lights come back on, radio comes back on. Now, if you know anything about electricity going out, when it comes back on, normally your radio don't come back on, right? My radio came back on. and lights came back on. Everything was normal again. What's the craziest part about this is I had a dog that a flea fart, and he would bark at everything. Never once barked. Never once was alerted to anything that happened. The growling, the me crying and screaming. I mean, I was at the top of my lungs screaming. It was scary. Well, fast forward. Sorry, my phone, my camera's acting up weird. Within a couple of months, this was constant. Scratching, banging, knocking on the walls. Everything was crazy. And then something happened, and I don't have any memory of this. I have no knowledge, but everybody in my family, my mom, my dad, and my sister have all told me that, you know, my sister married and moved off, and she would come and visit sometimes, or she'd come and stay with me, you know, for whatever reason, just to, you know, hang out with me, torment me. I'm kidding. I love you, Tammy. But right before my mom and dad would leave to go to work, because they work nights, I would start freaking out, crying and screaming. I'm 15 years old, mind you. I'm not a kid. I'm not a child. That there was somebody in my room, somebody outside, somebody trying to get me. I was feared for my life. I have no memory of this. But apparently, I made my dad, before they left, every single night, go into my room, walk around my room, go into the backyard, because my window faced the backyard. And he would go outside and show me that there was nobody in my backyard trying to get me. And one night, once again, door shut, lights flicker, I'm by myself. I hear something at the window where my bed was. The window was right above it, and it was scratching. Like, it sounded like somebody had like a knife which was going down the screen. Just the horrible sound, the same growl, the same weird chanty sounds. It was just everything from any freaking horror movie you've ever watched. Mom and Dad got home the next morning. I was like, Dad, we got to do something. There's something in my room. Can you please? I don't know, the squirrels. I didn't care. I needed, because I couldn't, obviously I wasn't going to tell him, hey, Dad, I have a demon in my room. Could you, do something about it? He went to, looked all in my room, in my closet, under my bed, doing the good daddy thing. He got to my window and he looked at it and he was like, did you take your screen off? I said, no. Why would I do that? Inside, between the glass in my room, the screen, obviously, inside between the screen and the glass, perfect cut marks. They weren't there before. And that freaked me out. And I have no memory of this other than that part. I do remember that part, but the screaming and begging my dad to go and check the yard and check the room, I have no memory of any of that. And this happened for years until I finally, graduated high school, moved on, did my thing. But it was like spooky. And it wasn't until, years later that I found out about the old man in the house and that the house was haunted. It was freaking full on haunted. Well, fast forward, like I said earlier, I'm almost 50 years old. And I found out so much about my parents, about my dad's a remote viewer, drawer. He can be here and somebody somewhere else can be thinking of something and he can channel in and draw it. He, all these things. And I finally sit down when I first decided to be a paranormal investigator. Before that, we started talking about stuff, about aliens and about, cryptids and stuff like that, just all the para things in the world. And I started talking about all my paranormal experiences. And my mom and dad were like, yeah, everything that our house is haunted and all this and that. Including the house I live in now, by the way. But that's a whole different video. That's a whole nother story. Oh my God. I could go in on that I could talk an hour on that. But I was like, all these years I thought I was crazy. You all let me think I was crazy. But I had no memory of any of that stuff. I had blocked it out. And still to this day. Like my friend Lorna was going to hypnotize me and try to see if she can bring it all out. And I'm like, I don't want to remember. I don't want to know. But yeah, but that's what got me going. And then I turned on YouTube and was watching Hunting the Dead, Jody Dean, and I saw Rochelle. And I was just like, oh my God, cool chick. I can talk to her. So downloaded Discord. It sounds creepy now, but download Discord and messaged her. And I started talking to her in group chats. And they were all encouraging me. Yeah, you can do it if you got a cell phone. You just record. Because I was like, yeah, the house I live in is freaking haunted. It's insanely haunted. And she was like encouraging me to do it. And I did it. I sent one to her first. And I was like, hey, is this worthy of posting? That was almost 5 years ago, guys. And I am still here. Now, I took a couple of years off. I didn't post. You know, I investigate. I just don't record it and put it on film. But that's how I got going. Rochelle was the catalyst that kind of pushed me towards it, but my whole life I have dealt with it. But I've had some, may I say, demonic experiences that has really pushed me to investigate. That's why my name is research. I want to know what and why, and I deep dive into it, and I get fixated on something, and I'm going to dig in until I figure out why. And there's just so many questions that are still left unanswered because, I mean, how do you define this? How do you know what you're up against, you know? And it's fascinating and it's beautiful to be able to sit down and have a conversation with someone who's passed and get their story out. Be able to communicate and be like, let me help you. You know, I'm not qualified to do a lot of things. I'm not dare would I ever say I'm good at what I do, but it's genuine. If y'all seen from my videos, I don't edit in a bunch of jump scares and theatrical noises and sounds. It's raw. I only edit out the dead space and I let you see what I find. If you hear a growl, there was a growl. If you see an orb, it was an orb. You know, if there's nothing there, I'm gonna let you know. Place isn't haunted. There wasn't anything there. I walk in, like I've said this before, I think, and I'm gonna close with this. This is getting kind of long, but haunted's haunted, you know. And day or night, it can be a cemetery. I can drive through a cemetery and feel nothing. I can drive through a historically documented haunted location and feel absolutely nothing. The freakiest feeling I've ever had was in Waxahachie, Texas, and I walked into a library. Immediately walked in, and the Native American feel, the overwhelming sense of, no ma'am, you don't belong here, you need to leave. And I turned around and walked right out. So the house I live in right now, my closet is demonic. I mean, I'll use that word clearly. I'm being a little dramatic, but it's crazy. But yeah, I live in a very inhabited, I'm not the only one here. This house is very haunted. I love it. Nothing demonic, nothing mean, evil, but it's definitely got its characters. But either way, I'm going to close with that. Sorry for the two-part weird change from my Jeep to my bidder, but my GoPro's acting up. I don't know why. It would not record even though I had plenty of battery, so I don't know. Maybe there's something trying to tell me not to give the story, but yeah, but that's it. That's what got me going. A visit to my grandmother's gravesite sparked up something that I had been dealing with my whole life, but I had chose to kind of ignore. Now I can't ignore it. You know, now there's too much. I see too much. I feel too much. I hear too much. And it's exciting. And it's almost like an honor to me to be able to do what I do. But I'm very appreciative of each and every one of y'all. Y'all follow me along on this crazy journey. For whatever reason, you're watching my videos. And I'm grateful. You know, I love each and every one of y'all. Chase Manor, sorry for the wobbling of the camera there. Chase Manor, I'm still editing. Please let me know if you want a 1 hour-long video or 2 30-minute videos. But yeah, that's my story. That's what got me here. But hell of a journey so far, and I'm just getting going. So stick around and let me know what y'all think. But once again, I love you, each and every one of y'all. And until the next one, be good to each other.